Welcome to revolution.social, a podcast about the future of social media.
Hi, Rabble.
Hey, Alice.
So this week, we're going to add a bonus episode for our listeners now that we're a few interviews in. And we wanted to just share more information really about the Social Media Bill of Rights that you've touched on a few times with your guests. And there was a really great conversation that you had on stage at Web Summit in Vancouver where you really gave a lot of detail about what those rights are, who they're intended for, and why you've come up with them.
Yeah, I spoke to Penny Duffloss about the origin of these ideas and where we came from and the importance of having a set of rights that we can demand. So the history of how I came up with this idea and what they are. And so I thought this would be a really good thing to share on the podcast to give people more context.
Yeah, it was really great live. So I hope everyone enjoys it, and we'll see you next time.
Hello.
Hi.
We've just spent the last hour gabbing, and it's been so much fun, so it's nice to continue our conversation here in front of everybody else.
Yeah, it's really great to be here.
You have such a unique insight into what Twitter was supposed to be, how it all started. You were Jack Dorsey's boss, and you hired him. Tell us a little bit about your background and what Twitter could have been.
Yeah, so today, we see it as this global platform, and it becomes this space of contested politics. It dominates news and what's going on in the world. But it's important to remember that originally, it was just a group of friends trying to figure out, how do we keep in touch with people? How do we engage? What would the internet look like if it was social and on our phones? And how do we send these messages? And then it ballooned up, and then everyone joined, and we got a huge number of problems. And we didn't design it in the right way. And what we're doing now is going back and trying to fix that again.
Again.
We just keep repeating the same mistakes and trying to do a better job the next time.
I know one of the things you're really passionate about right now is the Social Media Bill of Rights. And I think to some people that's going to be a really familiar concept, but maybe to the layperson not so much. So explain to us what you mean by that and what the pillars are.
So what I realized when I hear people talk about Nostr and Blue Sky and alternatives to Twitter is it was very hard to understand why? Like, what are we advocating for? What are we calling for? What is it? And I realized that we needed something really simple, like a Bill of Rights. We need to own your username and identity and content. We need a say over what the algorithms we're using are and an understanding of them. We need the right to interoperability and to move from one app to another. We need the right to privacy. And if you don't want it public, you have the right to have it private. And we need the right to self-governance. Be able to choose what the trust and safety rules are, what the moderation rules are, and have them be accountable. And those are so much more than just, it's your data, or it's your rights, or, I want Instagram or Twitter or Meta or TikTok to do better. It's like, do better in what?
To accomplish a lot of those things, it sounds like it'd be hard to do with these for-profit companies. I mean, a lot of these companies have made huge amounts of money by skirting around a lot of these issues. Is it possible to do this and still make money? Like, is there a way to kind of accomplish both things? Because how do you develop something like this without spending huge amounts of cash? You're going to want to make back your investment.
Well, so that's the original sin of Twitter. The original sin of Twitter is that it never should have been a company to begin with, because the financial demands and the needs of the company and the needs of the platform and the users and the community, they're at contradiction. And we created a company because we needed the resources to build it. But the early Twitter, all of the early Web 2.0 stuff was very open. You didn't go to Twitter to use the Twitter app. You used TweetDeck or Twitterific. You didn't go and expect Twitter, the company, to innovate. What Twitter, the company, did was look at the users. Users made hashtags, users made retweets, users made short links, users made everything we think of, trending topics. Everything we think of as Twitter was created by the users, and Twitter, the platform, just made it possible. Until Twitter decided that the only business model was advertising. And that is where we lost that openness. And what we're doing today with Nostr, with Blue Sky, with ActivityPub, is we're trying to reclaim that openness so that social media can work more like web and email and less like a centralized app.
So your goals seem to align a lot with what Blue Sky is going for. Is Blue Sky the solution, or is it the best solution you've seen so far? Like, how does that fit in? How does Blue Sky fit into your goals?
Blue Sky is part of an open ecosystem. I was one of the people that went back to Twitter long after I had left and pitched that there should be an open protocol. I was part of the original team that did investigation in protocols and spun it up. And it's one example of that, but Blue Sky is just one kind of thing. It's just a public feed, and it's not the whole social web that we want to build. And it is really good, and I support it, and I like it, but I'm also a little worried because it does have venture capital investors too. And so the reason I'm launching this social media Bill of Rights, the reason I'm saying these are the things we should demand, is because I want the people working at Blue Sky, I want the people using Blue Sky to not give up these fundamental rights. In 2012, Twitter shut down its open API ecosystem. Mm-hmm. They shut down the third-party apps. And we had no way to fight back. We had nothing we could do to fight back. And I am worried that the same pressures that caused Twitter to lock itself down will happen to Blue Sky. And so we need these rights so that they don't do that, so that we can defend an open internet and you have the rights to choose it. And so if we just all live in Blue Sky, then it's not enough. You know, if you look at alternatives like Black Sky, which is run by a bunch of African Americans who are like, we weed our own stuff. They built their own tech, their own servers, everything else, it's interoperable. If you look at Nostr, where you can follow and send people through Blue Sky, but you can do private communications. Like, there's all of these other things that exist in this open ecosystem, and because it's based on open protocols, they all interact. And you're not dependent. You know, we don't want to be sharecropping on other people's land.
So the idea of Blue Sky, it sounds like this, as you say, probably best option for the time. For a lot of people, that's going to mean signing up for a brand new profile, signing up for a new account, starting from scratch, starting this whole thing over. I find the process fairly onerous. I'm just trying to imagine, like, your mom or your grandma that loves Facebook right now and in trying to adapt to something new. How feasible is it to change the way that we've been in a mature industry? Because it is a mature industry right now. Everybody's used to their certain things. Is it really realistic to expect that it's all going to shift?
I mean, that's the only choice we have. You can't build anything without shifting it. When we were the first commercial company to do podcasting, we went out to NPR, National Public Radio in the United States, and we said, you should distribute your radio programs as MP3 files over the internet, and it's called podcasting. And NPR said, you're crazy, no one will ever do this podcasting thing. We send our radio programs over satellites to community radio stations, and that's how our business model works, and podcasting will never work. That's what they said. And we just kept at it, and we built it. When I introduced people to Twitter, and I said, here, you send these short messages and you follow people, people are like, this is the stupidest idea ever. No one will ever use this thing. Why do I want my phone vibrating? I don't want people sending me all these text messages. When I said we need an open social protocol and we're going to compete against Facebook and Twitter and TikTok, but we're going to make it work like email and the web, everybody's like, no one will ever do this. This is a crazy idea. And I was like, you can't trust the CEOs of these companies, even when they are the best and have the best intentions. Everybody's like, yeah, but you know, Jack Dorsey's running it and he's great and it's fine. And I'm like, yeah, but he's not the one who owns it. We need to own it. And only when Elon Musk took over and started like being like a bull in a china shop, just kind of like bashing which way and ever and saying it should be a very political platform and changing it and, you know, tearing apart their trust and safety system, did people go, oh my God, I wish we had an alternative. And they started looking at them, and we started growing them. And so everybody says it won't work until all of a sudden they're like, why don't you have it already? And so that's why we do the work. That's why we build it. And we fail a lot. Jay, who founded as CEO of Blue Sky, her previous company was Happen. It is a groups thing, like Facebook groups, but in a decentralized way. No one ever used it.
Yeah.
Paul is their CTO, built this thing called Citizen, which was a decentralized social protocol. No one ever used it. All of us worked on this thing called Secure Scuttlebutt, which like a few thousand people used, and we worked on it for years, and it never got adoption. And so you just keep building it, and you keep trying to figure it out, and we keep iterating on it, and sometimes it takes off because of the social dynamics and not the tech at all.
And I was going to ask, that was going to be my next question, is it the simplest platform that works? Is it the one that makes the most sense to the layperson? Because like when I started thinking about the implications of Blue Sky and hearing what Jay said the other day at the opening, it's like, wow, but then it's overwhelming. And I think if you don't understand how something works, it seems intimidating, and you're like, how do I as a person figure out how to interact with this? So is it, does the simplest option win? Does the most eye-catching, easy-to-use interface, like what's it going to take for people to buy into this, this kind of portable, decentralized, I can take my friends and all my interests and move them around kind of thing?
So it's not the technology. We're at Web Summit. It's a technology conference. There are lots of technologists. We design software. We build software. We talk about the features, the business models, the investors, and everything else, and the protocols, and it has nothing to do with that. What wins is the social thing. It's people first. This is about humanity. It's about connecting people. And so people go where other people are, and it's about organizing it. I use this metaphor when I think about social media things, and that they're like physical spaces. So, Instagram is an art gallery. It's got that vibe of everything else. And so if you want to be popular on Instagram, or you want Instagram to be popular, you want it to be the most popular exclusive art gallery. TikTok is like this carnival. There's like so many lights and things going on, and it's very distractive, but you have no idea where it is, and you don't follow people. You just kind of get stuff shown at you. Facebook has become the community center where like you have like a meeting. It's very tired and old, and it's like, you go to do bingo or something like that. Twitter was the hipster bar, like the hipster dive bar. It's too fucking loud. But there's a lot of energy there. It feels like all the cool people are there. But it's also, people get drunk and fall over and throw punches sometimes. And so all of those spaces exist. And they draw people in, and they create their own cultures. And so as we're building new things, we need to realize that the same social dynamics that make a neighborhood cool are what makes these social spaces cool. There are times last year, everybody was leaving Twitter because it was making who you block public, and they were going to Blue Sky. Well, Blue Sky makes who you block public too. Like they were leaving one for another, and the reasons people were moving weren't the real thing. The reality is that people move for social dynamics. But we need to think about who runs these things and why, and what rights do we have. Like, is your account going to be deleted? And when the government of Turkey went to go delete, order Blue Sky delete accounts from a bunch of Turkish activists, Blue Sky deleted them from the Blue Sky app, but you could go to dear.social and all of a sudden it doesn't apply. Or you can go look at those same people on Nostr and it doesn't apply. There were lots of ways to do it, and that's part of the openness, because you have those rights.
The Social Media Bill of Rights, I encourage everybody there's 5 basic points, so I encourage you to look at them and read them in detail, because there's a lot of food for thought there. One of the more interesting aspects that you had in there, you had one little line under the right to own our identity, is the right to be forgotten.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that, because I find for somebody who's spent his entire career in social media, the right to be forgotten seems like it's almost at odds with what you do.
We need to be able to fuck up. We need to be able to say, hey, I made a mistake. And it doesn't mean that someone didn't screenshot it. It doesn't mean that it really didn't happen. But you be able to put a stake in the ground and say, I'm please, I retract that, I made a mistake, or I don't want to exist, or I don't want to participate in this. And that's about human agency. And I think that it's very important because what we're doing is building digital analogs to our real world lives. And if you say a bad joke at a bar with friends, it doesn't pursue you forever, and you don't have the entire world going after you for it. And if you say a bad joke on social media, you become the target of the day, and all of a sudden everyone goes after you because we've conflated public and private. And so you need the ability to be I'm done, I'm out, or this identity is done, or everything else, and you need those rights.
We've just got a few minutes left to go here, so tell us what you're working on now, because you've got all these ideas in your head, and I feel like what are we going to see next? What are you working on?
So after working on sort of helping push Blue Sky to be existence and everything else, I realized that it was solving the needs of a public protocol for Twitter, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't able to provide us private communication. It wasn't able to provide us groups. And so what I've been working on for the last couple of years is a protocol called Nostr, which is in the same ecosystem where we are working on groups and communities. We're basically saying, how do we build a system that isn't just the Twitter timeline, but lets you build all your social apps? And so I've just launched a new nonprofit, not investor-based. It's all transparent, all open source, not for profit, called And Other Stuff, and we are building out social software in the ecosystem and building out all of the connections behind this. And the goal isn't replicate Twitter. The goal is to liberate people from the confines of Facebook groups so that you can control it, so you can set your own group needs, so you can manage it. And in particular, we need to find a new business model behind it, because right now you have two business models. You have the Slack business model, which one person owns the community and they pay for it, and everybody else exists on the community they own. Or you have the Facebook model, which is they sell you to advertisers, and the group admins and that community, they don't have any say. What we're trying to do is build an alternative business model around which the communities are able to raise funds using eCash, using micropayments, using self-custody, this technology called Cashew, and it's connected to Bitcoin, but it's not a speculative cryptocurrency thing, no token. But it does let people raise money and allocate it for their own communities so that you can pay for your own servers, because you're not the product. So that the people doing the moderation work, the trust and safety work, they're able to raise the money themselves. So that when people in your community have a need, you can crowdfund it in a way that is, again, permissionless. So someone else can't go and delete your account. And solving the business model is essential, because the business model of advertising is what forced us to undermine Twitter. It's the reason that social media went from this protocol-like cooperative space to this consumptive ad market, where you are the consumer and they want you to just view as many of these things as possible so that you're clicking on the ads. And we're building an alternative business model around community funding so that we have a future that is controlled by the communities of users.
All this while starting a podcast. It's very impressive.
I'm starting a podcast, revolution.social, where I'm going off and interviewing both sort of the original folks behind Web 2.0 who built this, and everyone who's building the future, so that we can engage in a public conversation around this.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for your time, Rebel. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to revolution.social. Thanks to Penny DeFloss for a great conversation in Web Summit for inviting us there to speak. Our intro and outro music is a remix of the classic Italian anti-fascist song Bella Ciao, courtesy of White Records.
This episode was edited and produced by Eric Johnson from lightningpod.fm. Our executive producer is me, Alice Chan, from Flock Marketing.
And to learn more about the Social Media Bill of Rights, sign up for our email newsletter at revolution.social.
For more interviews like this one, follow revolution.social on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, nostasfountain.fm, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And to paraphrase Subcomandante Marcos of the Zapatistas, we need a social media revolution to make revolution possible. We'll be back next week. See you then.